Guess Randy's not here. She's probably looking for me, but I'll, it's always big rival game. I'm excited to play ASU. It's going to be right out. Should be fun with the fans, and glad to be back home after a rough week.
I mean, you went into Colorado with, like, wanting to pressure them, and you had success with that. Um, I mean, how much confidence does it get you that at least they were able to follow that part of the plan? And then how much do you need so they follow other parts of the
Yeah,
plan?
so I think going back to first Utah, very hard place to play. I was happy with we did some really amazing things. That was an amazing run. It was against a really good offensive team. I thought we did some really great things. A 22-point swing there at Utah, like it's hard to do. So really happy about that. Not happy with the loss, but happy with how we fought. We didn't lay down, and I think just made some young mistakes down the stretch, like fouling when we had to lead, those kind of things. So definitely great teaching moments after that. And then we go to Colorado and just did not play good. Didn't make shots, didn't run offense, got back to holding the ball. They did some things that they did a great job. They outplayed us. They wanted it more. It always worries me as a coach when a team's really successful at home like they are. They were 11-1 going into that game, and then their best player's out, because then I think everybody steps up and people rally. And they just played harder than we. So I was kind of disappointed in the way we lost. And we fought at times, but I think overall we weren't on the same page fighting together at the right moments. You could live with missing shots. You can't live with like not getting to 50-50 balls and just stuff like that. So I think that was just like like one of those nights. And we saw that with Utah at home. So kind of similar to that, but I think we're better than that now. I think we have to get, Brea confident again. We have to get Jada just had an off night. We have to get some more productivity from, Paulina right now was just off. And we need some other people that can step up and score.
And with Brea especially, I mean, when she was out in that first half, you give up a double-double to their 6'3" forward.
Yeah.
You were able to contain a little bit more in that second half. But with Brea out and you have a player just go off like that.
Yeah.
I mean, what is Brea, what is her mindset right now about getting through those times and being able to stay on the floor? Does she have any confidence that she can?
Yeah, so she's done that all year. I think that's the disappointing part. So I think just you go through these stretches, and usually February is when you kind of hit that wall, like January, February. So I think she's just a little bit frustrated and a little discouraged. And she is getting bad calls. Like, that's a fact. When I watch, like, the Kansas State game, there's stuff that Brea can't do that other people can do, and that's a fact, and that's unfortunate. But it's also going to happen away. You're going to get more calls. So I think that she's still young, learning that, you get one quick, don't even go for it, don't even leave it questionable. And that's a mature thing, and she's young. So I'm learning that. But I thought she's been awesome at that until recently. So I think she's just mad at herself, too, and just frustrated. And she does get some bad calls. Like, I do agree with her on that. But she's got to be able to work through that. And I think she will. I think that she's ready to turn around. But I think you just get frustrated. I get frustrated. And honestly, that was an extremely frustrating trip. Just some stuff that happened in the game situation, and it's just, the scorer's table. That's not an excuse for the game at all, but it was a disaster. So I learned a lot about some of the rules. I learned that, and I did not know this in 9 years, that if there was like a shot clock violation or one occurring, which it was in the game, that if there's a mishap on the scores table, it automatically gets reset. Oh, I didn't know that. That was the first time in my career. We're talking like 30-something years of basketball. I've never seen that. So I was like, and the refs were like, hey, we're sorry. And I was like, well, that rule stinks. Like, we got to rewrite that rule. But I don't even know what the other rule would be. But there was some stuff like that. There was a lot of mishaps of the clock, the most I've ever seen in my career.
So the last 6 games, your defense has held those teams well under their normal points per game average. To you, what does that say about where your defense is right now?
Well, I think that, we've always, when we were really good, we didn't have great offensive teams, so we just played defense. But offense is really important too, and we played some pretty good offense. It's just at times. So if you see that when games we play really good defense, it leads to our offense. So I think you get confidence. I think if you saw Colorado super stagnant on offense, not at Utah. Utah played pretty good offense, but super stagnant on offense, holding the ball, bad shots, which leads to bad defense. So I think that they're correlated. You should be 50-50. You shouldn't be super defensive heavy. You shouldn't be super offensive. There needs to be a balance. Now, depending on personnel, we can't play the defense the style I want to play. So we're working on other stuff. But you also have to have a good organized offense to have an organized defense. So when you're going to hold the ball, it stays on one side, take bad shots. Those are fast breaks. So you're going to give up points. And I think that we've been holding some people, but then we have to find ways to score, or we can play the defense, and then you got to be able to convert. So there's stuff like on a 3-on-2 situation, kicking the ball up. Those are little things that young players don't see because maybe their handle isn't there. Stuff like that, but you show it on film, learn from it. But when we're playing good and we're confident, we're doing those things. It's just the games we're not. When things are hard, that's when some people aren't showing up. And I challenged the team. I said, it's one thing. If you're playing against the last team in the league, yeah, it's easy to show up those games. Like, every game's hard to win, but it's a lot easier. Everything's good. You can score easier. But what do you do when things are harder, when the players are better, the stakes are higher, the game's a little bit more important? Do you show up in those games? You have to be able to show up in those games. You got to show up in big games. You got to perform. That's the reality. So people have to step up in the games that count. And every game counts, but the game that's important, that we need to win. And that was a big loss for us. We both were in similar situations in that game. Doesn't mean that anything's over, but it's a big loss. And so we need to win the games we're supposed to. We need to steal a couple games and fight to get into the tournament. So.
And how much thought is going through your head right now about the possibilities of the tournament?
I'm really not even thinking ahead because we're not good enough to think that far ahead. I think that one game at a time, because I'm seeing we can play really great one game and then just lay an egg the next game. So figuring out a way to get us more consistent or get people playing good at the same time and getting people confidence. And right now we're not practicing as much. It's just that time of the year. So figuring out how to balance us learning on film. We have to work on some offensive things. Like Colorado did some stuff and gave us a hard time, and that should not be hard. In other games, that hasn't been hard. So why was it so hard that game? So I have to understand that, and then make the adjustments and get us playing better. And that's my job, to figure that out. And we have 7 games, and we have a pretty favorable schedule. I think we played the hardest part of our schedule early. So, but if you play the way we did last game, we're not going to win any games. So if we step and play like we did against West Virginia, fought in that quarter and a half against Utah, we can win. But what's it going to take to get us there? And getting the team to understand it doesn't matter who's starting. It doesn't matter when you come out. It's not always about that. So getting everybody to understand that. And I think this is a time for players that there's some stress. When there's a little bit more pressure, there's more stress. And I think just some people can't perform under those conditions.
I know that you came home late Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I would imagine you just haven't spent a ton of time on preparing for ASU. What's it like? Is there an advantage, disadvantage? Does it not matter? Because they basically had a bye this week, right? They're only focused on you all week, and you had to play an extra game, and then you probably only had today as practice, right?
Yeah, yesterday we had a light practice, just worked on some things we had to work on to fix some offensive areas. It's a disadvantage, but it is what it is. I think that we're at the point in the season where you do what you got to do. I'm not the type that's going to make an excuse. I'm not saying, the refs or the scores say, well, that's not why you lose. So you got to figure it out. You got to step up, get ready and perform. And that's the bottom line. So whether they had a week, whether we had 2 days, there's advantages, disadvantages. You got to show up and play. This is going to be a very hard game. The records don't matter. We're playing a good team that's hungry and needs to win. And so we have to step up and perform and figure out a way. And I think with sometimes young teams, there's a lot of excuses, there's a lot of reasons why. But you got to look in the mirror, you got to self-evaluate, you got to get better, and you have to produce. And it's not all predicated on scoring. You can be off, but you can do other things to help your team win. You can be an awesome teammate. You can be someone that is going after every 50-50 ball. You can be a great rebounder. There's a lot of things that are controllable. So people have to be able to do that, and they have to perform. And that's just the bottom line.
I mean, it seems like some players' personality, like, you know, Montea's kind of passive a little bit offensively, or, you know, just they've got a way of being. And how do you help them with that so they can improve parts of their game?
Yeah, that's a challenge always. I think, yeah, like people are who they are. And I think you can try to, you're not going to change someone's character. Like, you're not going to make someone a dog that's not a dog. But you can try to show, like, when you do these things, you're more successful. Or you get them really confident in certain areas so they can do that. And I think that comes from a lot of skill work, because of repetition, in confidence and skill work, well, you can apply that to the game. Because in a game, you go back to your habits. So if you're not putting in the work, you're not going to ever pull those things in the game. Like with Bray, we're working on facing up more and stuff like that. And so it takes thousands of hours before you're comfortable. So I think with Montea, it's reinforcing daily. You know, yesterday I had this drill where she just has to score, you know, like doing stuff like that to build confidence. But it's a process. She's a freshman. So it might take a couple years. I look at Helena's trajectory, and it took us 4 years to do that. And then she was really good, but it was a process. Some of the players you can't get, not on our team right now, but you can't get someone not to shoot. So I think you have to just work with what you have and make the best at it. And Montea is a really good player. But we need her to be more aggressive. We need her to produce for us because it's just our personnel and what we have. Other people have to step up because we're shorthanded. And, you know, Jada has a lot of weight. You know, she's a point guard. We need her to score. We need her to be vocal. We need her to lead. It is what it is. But it's a great situation to be in. When you're relied upon and you have to do certain things to help the team win, I think that's an honor. And you're lucky to be in that situation. A lot of people aren't in that situation. And you could be somewhere else and not be in that situation. So I think that you have to be able to perform and step up. And the players have, you know, they have to realize that. And I think it's hard. I'm just like winning's hard. Like, I'm supposed to win. And, like, it's not easy winning. So this is life. You got to perform in your job. If you don't write good stories, you will probably get fired. Like that, it's a fact. So you got to, like, be able to perform and step up. And but it's not always about scoring. There's a lot of other things you can do.
And what's the scout on ASU?
Yeah, ASU, you know, they have really good players. They play a lot of one-on-one, so we have to be able to guard our yard. And I think we have to go after, we have to win 50-50 balls. I think we have to pound the ball inside. We got to pressure them and guard them. I think that the freshmen don't understand what a rival game is, and there's a lot of like cross relationships here, like knowing each other from AAU, different stuff like that. So it's good. We saw our men's game. It's going to be a super heated game. That's what it is, and that's the fun. That's what's fun about it. So I'm curious to see how we're going to respond after 2 tough losses. How we're going to come back home and step up. And we've done it in the past. We did that against West Virginia. We did a great job. So I'm hoping that we can replicate that tomorrow. But it's going to be a hard game. I mean, they're good. They have a lot of new players that we're not familiar with, and they're hungry. And they have some players that are capable of going off, and they score a lot of points. I mean, they average more points than we do. So we have to be able to guard them, and we have to be able to be tough and fight and play how we're capable of playing. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see who steps up and how tomorrow. Okay.